everyone, this is Paul with Endless Rides, and welcome to the weekly webinars that we started doing as of just last week. Hopefully everyone's doing all right. I just want to do a quick check-in and make sure that everyone can see my screen okay and hear my audio loud and clear. Great. Looks like everyone can hear me loud and clear. Yes, the webinar will be recorded, and let me go. I'll show you here shortly where the previous webinar is at. Now, if you can't hear me, keep in mind on your little webinar dashboard thingy that you have there, audio has two options. It's to call in by telephone or to choose mic and speakers. If you're sitting there with the headset on and you can't hear anything, it's probably because it's set to telephone. You need to click the mic and speakers option. All right. I'm just going to cover a few updates, and then I will be introducing our special guest speaker. Now, a few of the things that I want to cover real quick here would be, one, where's the old webinar at? You had a link to it, but let me just show you. When you click on the video library, and you click on the right-hand category here, you see I'm in the video library, and you see this webinar archive. I click on Webinar Archive, and this is where you can go to view the old webinars. And yes, this thing's going to start filling up with a lot of webinars because we're going to be doing these regularly now every single week. So anytime that you want to see a recorded webinar, you can go in here. There are some advantages to being on the live webinar, of course. You can ask questions and have them answered. Two, who doesn't like a live event versus a recorded one, right? And from time to time, we will have some promotions running during the webinar that you'll only be able to avail of while you're on the webinar. So that is where you will view the last week's webinar, which was a great webinar. I went over things like some niche marketing tactics. Everyone else on the webinar shared some of their sales tactics as well. We had some unique lead generation ideas come out. Now, one update that we did do, as you know, the Communications Hub is the new support ticketing system. When you go into the Communications Hub, you click on Add Ticket right here, and it brings you with a prompt window to add support tickets, right? Now, the old support ticketing system is now clear to the right here, and it says Old Support Tickets. When I click on this, it prompts me with a window and lets me know that I can continue to view my old support tickets, but new support tickets will have to be submitted through the new Communications Hub. So I can continue to view my old support tickets, but if I want to submit a new ticket, I have to go through the new channel. So that's a little update that we had there. And there's one other pretty nice update that we did. And if I go into the proposal tracker here, and before I do this, I think I'll go ahead and introduce our guest presenter, because I think you'll probably want to comment on this new feature. Everyone, I have guest presenter Jeremy here with us. Jeremy, I thought he'd been with us actually a couple of years. It looks like it's going on between a year and a half. He's such a pain in the butt, I think it's felt like we've been working together 3 years. Just kidding, Jeremy. But, you know, he's with us to kind of talk about his story and what it's been like working with us, because when Jeremy started up his company, he started working with us right away. And he's been working with us ever since, and he's been able to build himself up a nice-sized company. So, Jeremy, why don't you say hi to everyone out there?
Hello, folks. Pleasure to speak with you today.
Amazing introduction, Jeremy. So I've got, what we're looking at right here is I have my proposal tracker, right? And on my proposal tracker, I came inside of it. I'm just going to show you an update that we've done to the system. But everyone's going to want to pay attention to this, because this is a really nice feature that's going to help you out a lot. So let's say that I went in and I requested services for an SEO-related proposal, which means we do our research for you. And I come in here to the proposal tracker, and I click on it. And I come inside, and I go to my keyword information, which contains the research that we've done. For those of you who are familiar with the intake forms and launch forms, you're familiar with the whole public link concept where you can send a public link to your client and they can fill out a form without logging in. Well, now we've integrated the public link feature with your keyword information. Now, what the public link does is if you have your domain, if you have our dashboard masked, it would say your domain right here on the public link. You're able to take this public link on the keyword information that we have for you and all the research, and you can email it to your client. And when you email it to your client and they look at it, it will look something like this. So let me switch those screens again. This is your login, right? As if this is exactly like your portal, although your colors and logo is different. And when I take the link and send it to the client, notice that the logo and the theme remains the same. Now the client has no other options. They just come in here, see their domain name, they see their stats, and they can view the column definitions, export the results, but they can come in here instead of having to deal with an Excel file that you might have sent to them. They can come in here and they can start looking through the keyword research that's been sent to them. They can use the sorting options and everything that you use. But what's really cool as well is, check this out. If I go into here, and let's say that I wanted to ask my client to highlight the keywords that appeal to them most, and I explained to them the basics. And so I left them to their own to talk with the other people in their company and highlight the keywords they wanted the most. So let's say that they came in here and they highlighted maybe their top 10 keywords that they're most interested in, and I asked them to choose a secondary set of keywords, like maybe an additional 5 that they might be interested in, and highlight those orange and let me know when they're done. Now what you can do then after they've highlighted them is you can go into your dashboard when they let you know and click Sort Highlight, and boom, you're going to be able to see what they chose. So this is going to be really nice for those of you who are used to exporting the keyword research, sending it over to your client, or having to do screen sharing with them and leaving them without something to go through. Because what's also nice is that the competition analysis right here, the client's logging the competition analysis is also available for them to view. And if there's an online presence report loaded into here, then they can view that as well. Come in and view their own competition analysis. And as of tomorrow or Monday, there will be an icon here that will allow you to change the competitors on the fly your own, and your client would be able to do that as well. So that's a really handy sales tool now for you to be able to use. So instead of being able to only send them an Excel exported file, you can now use this. Now, Jeremy, you commented a little bit about, you thought that this seemed to have quite a bit of value to it because of the dashboard component. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the dashboard component really separates the smaller SEO firms from the others out there, in the fact that most small SEO firms don't have this type of capability. Most of us are bound to simple Excel spreadsheets. Most of us are bound to one third-party service or another, and with the dashboard, we have the ability of really integrating this completely into our business process, so that, in essence, Little Bitty Right Foot Media, just as much as any other smaller SEO firm, looks and can contend with the larger people out there.
Yeah, technology is a big deal, and so is presentation. Some people are asking a few questions about this, such as, when we do allow you to change your competitors on the competition analysis on the fly, is it going to do we have to rerun everything again? Technically, yes, but it takes 5 seconds to reload and sometimes only 2 seconds. So once you change your competitors and you hit reload, we have all this data in about 5 seconds. So you could change all 3 competitors, and this will be tomorrow or Monday when we have that option up there, and that'll reload in literally 3 to 5 seconds. I mean, right now you can change all 3 competitors by going to your intake form and changing them, and it would do the same thing. So that should help people out quite a bit. Now, Jeremy, some people are asking questions already. They're ready to get started, but I think I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more. If you don't mind telling people maybe a little bit about where you come from and what made you want to start an online marketing company. Why didn't you just stick with a day job?
Well, my background is actually as an investment broker. I spent 10 years working in oil and gas, entertainment, private equity, and when the bubble burst in 2008, I was left with the problem of figuring out what I was going to do with myself. I spent the last 20 years as a salesperson, marketer in one capacity or another. In my days of private equity, I helped design and to create and implement product lines and just the overall presentation of the deal. And after taking all of my skill sets and putting them down on paper, I realized there was no better place for me than in online marketing. When I look at online marketing, I see it as something that is heavily evolving and is no longer requiring just a simple service like a vending machine, but something more of a service that really is tailored specifically to their needs. So when I started looking at what Endless Rise offered, I felt that we really did complement each other, because I have the ability of being able to give my people, that extra tender, loving care, if you will. As far as I guess, to go back a little bit on my background, I have produced one movie, 45 commercials. I have raised over $8 million on my own. Been a part of raising $30 million with other companies, and so yeah, that's to sum that up. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yeah, that about sums it up. No, so whenever you got started, some people are already asking some questions about this startup. How did you get your company up off the ground? Because when you start up a brand new company, you have a lot of issues with things like credibility, not having immediate case studies. And how did you get past that barrier?
Well, quite frankly, I didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% correct. When you first get started, you don't have those case studies, and you can either make something up, which I never suggest, or you can just work based on the merits of your background. I mean, when I started talking to people, I let them know that I understood what it meant to be a business owner. I understood what it meant to be nervous every morning when you wake up, knowing that you have to have that phone ringing. And so I shared with them my background, and I was able to empathize with a lot of the problems that they faced. I think it also has a lot to do with the amount of education that you have in regard to SEO and the importance of SEO and just online marketing in general, and helping people to understand that you are knowledgeable and that you have good, clear strategies in place. I think strategy is most important. When you present somebody with just a product, hey, I'm going to provide you with 10 keyword SEO. That sounds like gibbledy-gook in a lot of ways. But when you present somebody with a clear set strategy that says that I'm going to provide you with a collection of keywords that we are going to work consistently over the next 6 to 8 months, and our goal is to get you on the first page not once, not twice, but multiple times, and to maintain that, people tend to stop caring so much about case studies. They stop caring so much about your personal accolades and how many fireworks have gone off for various clients.
Right. Right. But were you ever put in a situation where someone pinned you down and said, look, I need to see some references or some case studies if I'm going to do business with you?
Yes, I have, and that was actually where you helped me out. I was able to go to you, and you gave me a spreadsheet that showed me some examples of what you had done, and I basically, it was a little bit of wordsmithing involved, but I let them know that the team that I work with, these are some of the results that they've been able to muster.
Yeah, and just to let
that seems
people know, those are the case studies that you can find in the document library. There are some case studies that you can go off of, but Jeremy has used something fairly unique that most people, I would almost say, don't dare to use. Most people would never mention that they have a team or outsourcers that they use to help them gain credibility. But Jeremy, you've actually disclosed that to help you gain credibility, correct?
Oh, most definitely. Are you kidding me? When you look at most of the SEOs out there, they try so hard to keep everything local. And then what they end up doing is they end up spending $200,000 to $300,000 a year for good SEO text based on the American market, and they still only have 3 or 4 people. And so what I tell my clients is that, yes, I work with people outside of the United States, but the reason why is because I come armed with an army of knuckle-popping nerds behind me. I have the ability I have 85 people, 95 people in my SEO department. When Panda Penguin made its big giant switch and obliterated billions of websites, none of my clients were obliterated. You know why? Because I have a team of people that are paid to handle this. Plus, we've even gone a step further in the fact that we have 8 to 9 people that are paid specifically to keep their ear to the grindstone, or keep their ear to the tracks, excuse me, on what is going on with current trends in the algorithms of Google, Yahoo, Bing.
Yeah, of course you don't say our name, though. Right? That's just...
No, not at all. I don't.
Of course you
don't have to. All I have to do is... I'm sorry.
Jeremy,
all I have to do is basically I have a strategic partner that I work with, and that strategic partner, their core focus, their core competence is maintaining the technical aspect of my company. When people are coming to an SEO company here in the States, they're not looking for a technician more so than they're looking for a strategist, somebody that's going to pay attention to the big picture.
Right. But most people think that they would get a really negative feedback if they told one of their potential clients that they were using some overseas workers. Doesn't that carry some negative connotation for you?
No, not at all. I mean, when people try to bring up, oh, you outsource to Asia or whatever, I let them know that I'm not sure if you know this, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, but over in the Asian countries, they work on a collective system. And so you have, so when they say that their internet is 10 times faster, it really is. When they are pumping up tech degrees left and right. So needless to say, for me to try to keep it, straight up American the whole way through, and still be able to provide you with affordable SEO that is competent and works, I can't make that math equation work without going to the Philippines, for instance. So
right.
Yeah.
And that's really unique. And everyone on the line here, I mean, the majority of people don't tell their clients that they do have an overseas team. So it's not the norm. But I do like to bring that perspective out because Jeremy uses it regularly. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have Jeremy on the webinar is not only does he use it regularly, but he's proud of it, which I think is pretty cool, some people have a negative connotation towards outsourcing, but honestly, a lot of it is the light in which is presented to them. Jeremy, I've got a good question for you from Bob here. Bob's asking, hey, whenever you started out with Endless Rise, how did you figure out your markup on the pricing that you charge the clients? How did you go about figuring that out?
That is a really good question. I went and I looked at all of the different companies that were out there, and I found people that were charging anywhere from $500 to $3,000 for the same type of product. I then from there listened to what my prospects were saying, and I found that one of the safest models is to charge on a per keyword basis. So if we do 5 keywords, then I'm going to charge you $125 per keyword. If the more keywords you do, the lower cost per keyword that I charge, all the way up to, and it's not a major difference between 5 or even 30, because I still charge $90 per keyword if we do as many as 30 keywords. But that's been a safe business. That's been a safe model for me. I'm able to keep a 60 to 70% margin built in for me. Now, keep in mind, I also do not charge setup fees because that's one of my sales tactics, and that most people do. And so when I tell somebody I don't charge you setup fees, it makes them feel a little bit better, and it also gives me the ability to have something that I can trump the other companies that they may be talking to, because like I said, most companies are charging that setup fee. Right. So you leverage a setup fee quite a bit. Yeah, I don't ever. I mean, I get charged it through you guys, of course, because obviously we're putting more time in there. But I've noticed that setup fee is nothing so major that my bottom line is not going to suffer on the long term. Yeah, and it's actually, and it's not even on our side. It's actually not even a setup fee. It's actually just charged for the work. Setup fees usually reference to like administrative small tasks that are never documented. But we just charge straight up work. A lot of people do charge a setup fee, and they charge a hefty setup fee as well. Especially, there's people that pull their clients into contracts and people that do not, right? Because on some of the services that are being offered, for instance, SEO services, these SEO services can run
duration of as long as your client's going to be paying for them. So on the SEO services, even on LBLO, PPC, ORM, social media, all of these services except for web design are monthly, right? You can run them for 1 month or you can run them monthly, but some people have their clients sign a 6-month contract, 12-month contract sometimes, but a lot of people just go month to month with them and they can cancel at any time. But for the people that go month to month with their clients and don't give them there's no risk factor, I think that it really is a good reason to charge a setup fee if you don't pull them into a contract. That's what I would recommend, Jeremy. If you don't charge them a setup fee, then they should be in a contract. And if you do charge them a setup fee, then it means they're not in a contract and they're month to month. But it means you get more bang for your buck in the very beginning, in case they run for 2 months and then they drop off, and all the time you had into the setup and the energy to getting them on board is just kind of down the drain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But for my model, I really, and I know it costs me business in the long run. But my goal is not volume. In my model, I feel like for somebody to hire me on a month-to-month basis, I'm not setting my expectations properly. I think that's the most important part to what we do is setting those expectations and managing them properly. You know, when you talk to somebody and they say, how fast can you get me on Google? I find that question to be so incredibly funny at times. Because they act as though we just plug in our nickels to the vending machine and bam, we pop up. But in reality, it's going to take months. And I think that's the most important thing for people in this business to realize is that it's our duty, it's our job to set those expectations and let people know that it takes, 4 to 5 months to really start showing positive results. Does that mean it's going to take us 4 to 5 months to show any results? Of course not. This is why we give you the dashboard, so that you can track your results consistently. Will I show you progress in 2 months? Of course I will. But will I put you on the first page? Probably not. And so I think that when we set those horizons, we set those expectations, we keep the client from becoming disappointed on the short term.
Yeah, Jeremy could probably rattle on and on about how important it is to manage clients' expectations. And the case studies that we have here in the document library, I think, help for giving a nice projection on what to expect with the outcome on the rankings. But managing clients' expectations is a pretty big deal. If you don't manage them properly, then you're going to have issues. And a lot of people that aren't used to selling online marketing, that's one of the things that the client's going to ask you. I mean, Jeremy, if you're pitching me and your client, chances are I come to you and say, Jeremy, how much money am I going to make off of this? I mean, Jeremy, what do you say to a client whenever they say, Jeremy, how much money are you going to make me? I mean, I'm going to pay you X amount of money, but how much money am I going to make?
Well, when it comes to ROI, I find that to be, quite frankly, I haven't found the magical answer to tell people that based on 2 keywords that gets you on the first page will result in this much revenue for you. So for me, I tend to try to look and see what they've made off of the internet thus far. Like for instance, I have a client right now that over the last 11 years he has been able to attribute maybe 5% of his business to the internet. This year, based on, mind you, we started our SEO campaign, a 20 keyword campaign in December. This year he is now attributing 95% of his business to the internet. So how much money does that equate? It's hard to say. I mean, our goal is to, the way I explain it is an SEO campaign is very much like a mutual fund. I mean, when you look at a mutual fund, it's a collection of stocks, and depending on how those stocks perform overall will depend on your return. So I tell my clients the same thing when it comes to keywords. We're taking a collection of keywords. All of them are valuable because and that's based on the research that we do. And based on the results of those keywords, not 1, not 2, but all of them will depend on how well you perform on the internet.
Right. So you pretty much stay away from the whole ROI subject matter. There's a lot of ROI calculators that are out there that will help you to calculate ROI off of a marketing campaign. But really, it's very difficult to figure that out. It really is. Jeremy, what are some of the things that you'd like to be able to share with some people about not just going after your clients, but I mean, some people are asking, okay, so I submit a proposal request with Endless Rise, and they give me back this research like everyone can see on their screen here. So you go in, you submit a proposal request, you're able to come in here, you have all the keyword research available for you. Now you can share this even through a public link with your client. You have your competition analysis. Typically there's an online presence report as well. At what stage in the game do you pull out this information for your client? I mean, is the first thing you do is to submit a proposal request through services before you even talk to a client? At what point in time do you actually request a proposal from us?
Well, for me, I like to get to know the people that I'm working with because, as I said before, my goal is to create long-term relationships. So I spend a lot of time farming, if you will, looking for the right prospect. And then from there, I take them through an interview process where I assess their goals, where I assess their past experiences, so that I understand exactly what their knowledge level is in all of this and what type of expectations they already have before really getting involved. Then from there, once I get all of that information, I put it into the proposal. Into the services page, submit, and then at that point, I follow up with them. I have not used the link as of yet. I've just call me old-fashioned. I've been using the spreadsheets, and I kind of doctor them up and brand them to my company. But then from there, I send that to them, and at that point, I really look to get them on the phone before I actually give that to them because I don't want them to take it and either get confused, nor do I want them to take it and make assumptions. And so I get them on the phone, I send this to them, and then at that point I walk them through what we're looking at. And I show them what's most important, such as monthly searches, things of that nature.
And Jeremy, what kind of clients do you look for? Not, revealing any particularly maybe of a niche you go after or anything like that, but are there particular qualities to a client that you look for? Like probably you're not looking for someone who, sells gumballs out of a gumball machine on the side of the street, but are there particular qualities whenever you're talking to a lead that let you know, okay, this is a good lead that I have, or maybe it lets you know, this is a dead-end alley, I need to move on to my next lead? Like, how do you know when you have a good lead and it's really worth your time to really pursue them versus when it's time to let that lead go and go find a new one?
Well, for me, I keep in mind I've gained a lot of neat little tools from various team members there at ERI, and so I use Wapalyzer to take a look at their site to see if it's built in a WordPress or any type of CMS format. And if it's in a CMS format, then I know that they have some level of understanding of the importance of a good website.
And what was that again?
It's Wapalyzer.
Oh, yeah, Wapalyzer.
Yeah, Wapalyzer. It's an awesome program. It really is. And it plugs right into my Google Chrome or Firefox. And you have a little tag over in the upper right-hand corner right underneath the red X. All you have to do is click it, and it'll automatically tell you if they have Google Analytics. It'll tell you, it'll basically tell you what type of plugins they're using, things of that nature. And in doing so, you then get a clear you get a clear understanding as to whether or not they've started paying for SEO or whether or not they've tried SEO.
This is. Let me just show people this, Jeremy. This is Wapalyzer. Now, this is a Chrome and Firefox add-on. And I'll put this into the message for everyone so that I can send this. Now, Wapalyzer will show you what are the main things that you look at on here. It shows you if they have Google Analytics. So chances are if they don't have Google Analytics, they probably aren't tracking their traffic, right?
Exactly.
It tells you if it's in WordPress or not, which is interesting. And it will tell you if it's a different CMS system as well, like maybe if it's Joomla or something else. It will tell you, let's see, what else do we have on here? It tells you if it's written in PHP or not, and if they have any YouTube video players on their site, or Magento, which is e-commerce, or any Add This widget. So, yeah, that's a pretty nice plugin. So if you look at this, it will tell you if you're wanting to know what the site's built on. Chances are it's probably, although I don't see Joomla on here, but it's probably going to tell you what it is if you have this installed. I know it tells you if it's Joomla or not. I've used it before. So anyways, go ahead, Jeremy. This Jeremy's just saying this is how I find out what kind of a platform they built their site on.
Yeah, and then from there, I take a look at, I guess before I even get started, because what I target for the most part is our service-oriented companies, local companies, and so for me, I like to go on like the Google AdWords tool, and use it to just kind of get an idea of what people are searching for. Find the highest search volume, such as Rupert St. Louis or what have you, and then from there I use that keyword to find out who's on page 1. And then more importantly, I pay attention to who's in the pay-per-click, who's in the who's on page 2, who's on page 3, and I start calling those. Those are the people that to me need the most help. Because if you're paying for PPC and you're not showing up from an organic perspective, then you have not made the proper investment, or you have not worked with the right company to improve your SEO. And so you definitely need help there, because ultimately you're renting your marketing in so many ways when it comes to PPC. Not saying that's a bad thing, but as far as creating that marketing foundation.
Yeah, and that's something that I'd like to reiterate to people, and I appreciate you sharing that, Jeremy, and it's something that's nice to share, because there's no way that this sales tip, any number of people could ever go out and saturate the market by replicating this tactic, or nor would you ever overlap. But what Jeremy's saying is that, for instance, he'll do something as simple as going into the search engine and putting in the keyword and seeing who's showing up on PPC. For instance, this is an ad up top here, and then seeing, are they also showing up organically or not? Right, Jeremy? So what you're saying is, I know if they're paying for their PPC, it tells them a couple things. One, they have a marketing budget. Two, they're already paying for online marketing. This is nothing that's foreign to them. And three, even for the easiest long-tail keyword like this one, this domain, colorado.fanatics.com, is not showing up on the first page. So they probably would be real interested in how to cut down their PPC budget, because, as you can see, well, cost per click on that one's pretty cheap, but some of this cost per clicks, if I sort through this, get clear up to $2.37. So, Jeremy, the question that... The question...
Look at some of the large markets, and for lawyers, they pay
$20?
$60. I've seen CPCs, average CPC being as much as $120, $130 per click.
So what most people are going to say is, yeah, but what do you do? What do you do now? So what? I went in and I found someone that is paying for pay-per-click. They're not ranking organically. But what do I do now? Do I just pick up the phone and call them? Do I submit a proposal request at that point in time, even though I haven't talked to them? How do I get a hold of them?
Well, typically either I call or I have my assistant call. It's always good to have an assistant call and just off the cuff just ask, who's in charge of your marketing? Typically you'll get people that say, oh, this person, but they're not available, because they've already heard that before. They're not strangers to the SEO or online marketers that are calling. But I try to get the person that's in charge of their marketing on the phone. Or the owner of the company. Sometimes you can actually figure that out by going into the About Us section, and you find the owner's name, and at that point, ask for that person. If they aren't in charge of their own marketing, then they'll tell you who is. But they're still the best person to open up with as far as the pitch is concerned. But make sure you have enough bullets in your gun, so to speak. No pun intended. I know we're looking at gun companies. But make sure you have enough bullets in your gun so that you can, so that when you call them and they start to tell you, oh no, we're covered, you can tell them, actually, I just ran your information through Copyscape and it looks like your content's being duplicated, or that you have duplicated your content. Do you realize how bad that is for your SEO? No. Oh, well, I also noticed that you guys are paying some pretty hefty pay-per-click prices if you're going after the right amount of keywords. Are you interested in decreasing that budget, or are you happy spending all that money?
Exactly. And
no.
I think that's really the line, and I want people to really pay attention to that when you call someone up and you're pitching them online marketing or web design, even on a cold call, all you're doing is saying to them, hey, you want to pay me money for a service? But when you find them spending money in PPC and you call them up and say, you want me to save you money on the money you're currently spending right now? That's a different conversation. That's a lot different. Someone walks up to me and tries to sell me something. I don't care who you are. I'll keep walking. Someone walks up to me and says, I noticed that you're making a monthly payment over there, and I can decrease your monthly payments and gain you greater results. You want to talk? That's a different ballgame right there. So I can see how that could work really well, Jeremy.
Well, yeah, and you can also even go in and when nothing seems to be working, just ask them, have you had anybody check the checker? And they'll ask you, what do you mean? Well, I mean, at this point, you're paying a company good money, and I'm more than happy to put in a little bit of research for you.
To check the checker. That's good.
Yeah, let me check the checker.
And speaking of checking the checker, Jeremy, do you know of any free PPC checking tools?
No, I have not found any free PPC checking tools as of yet.
I can't believe I haven't shown you guys this. There's a free PPC grader tool, and whenever you hit, if you're going to take this sort of a strategy, and let's say you want to go in and you find someone that's paying pay-per-click marketing, but they're not ranking organically, and you hit them up, you might want to go ahead and send them an example PPC grader report, because you can give them and analyze their PPC campaign. And keep in mind here, everyone, you don't have to understand PPC to analyze PPC. There's a report, and I'll give everyone a URL to here, and this runs for free, but you do when you get a hold of the client, and I'm going to put this and send this out to everyone through my chat here. You can run this for free, and this report really is pretty amazing. If I go down through here, and they're not going to, there's a link to an example report somewhere in here. But anyways, this will go through and grade all of their PPC. And let me see if I can see their demo report on here. Come on. Anyways, not seeing it, but when you come into here, it runs this really nice report, which is really easy to brand to yourself, and it does a really thorough, nice, self-explanatory audit on any Google PPC campaign. You run a report like this on someone with a PPC budget, you can come in here, you can play the video on how to understand the free report that you've ran, brand it to yourself, and it's a very nice, comprehensive report. So when you hit someone up about their PPC campaign that they're running, telling them that you can maximize their SEO marketing and decrease their PPC costs for them, and if they want to hit you up, you'll run a free audit on their PPC campaign and give them some consulting just off of a report that you'll run that typically you might want to tell them the report would normally cost them $100 or $200, because I guarantee you if someone sat down to manually compile this report, you'd easily be paying $200. So what, you know where to find the software. But this is a very, very good tool, and Jeremy, I'll bet you end up using this a lot. I'm surprised I never told you about it. It must have never come up in our conversation. But yeah, this is the AdWords Performance Grader by WordStream. WordStream is one of the largest PPC technology providers, and they provide a platform to manage your PPC off of, kind of like Acquisio. Pricey, expensive, and really not what you need. But my whole point is, when you put in your information to run this report, and it says your data is safe, when you enter in your AdWords information to run the report for them, because they have to grant you AdWords access so that you can run the report, your data really is safe. WordStream is no knockoff company. That's a large technology company. You can trust your data with them. So yeah, you run a report through there, you're going to be a happy camper. And that's going to really help you to probably pull an SEO budget over off of a company that's running high PPC, because I see it happen all the time. And I also want to mention we do offer PPC marketing services for those of you who are not aware. And why am I bringing that up right now? Because on our PPC marketing services, we cover Google AdWords. So typically what happens is you run this report, it comes back and gives them an F on their current AdWords campaign, and it tells them that it's horrible, which I'll admit one thing. This report is great for sales because it doesn't take into consideration quite a few things that it should, so it usually gives you a lower score than what it probably should be. Great for sales, right? But whenever that comes back, and if you land this client that has a PPC budget and pull them into a large SEO campaign, guess what they're probably going to want too? Oh, you ran a report on my AdWords and it said I'm doing a horrible job. I don't want to dump my AdWords campaign, right? Who's going to manage their PPC marketing? So we do manage PPC campaigns, and we have a PPC marketing team, so we can manage the PPC as well as the SEO. Most people that sell PPC for the first time are not selling pay-per-click marketing to their client because they want to. They're doing it because their client told them that I'll move over a budget of $1,000 a month to you on an SEO campaign, but I want you to manage my PPC. and all of a sudden you're managing a PPC campaign. Actually, we are, right? Jeremy, is that probably how things happen with you?
Yep, that's exactly how it happens. The one bit of advice that I would give on dealing with PPC and ERI is make sure that you guys are looking over the descriptors that they use, looking over the regions that they're targeting. No one's perfect, and occasionally you're going to see a city name or descriptor that is not quite in tune with what your client wants. But it assures, because the greatest thing about ERI is they work consistently with what you give them. And sometimes those of us that haven't been in PPC for years, and those of us that don't have a great deal of experience, we almost want to sit back, press the button on ERI, and say, "All right, guys, get after it." But as managers, we also have a responsibility to ERI to make sure that we're keeping up with those descriptors, the locations, the keywords that we're targeting, so that we can assure that ERI is able to be as well armed as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jeremy. And so, yeah, that's a great way to pull SEO clientele. I do want to point out on that, though, it's still hunt and find, But whenever you get someone on the phone, that's really where the big game is. I mean, imagine how long you could spend online just looking for people that are running PPC marketing and that are not ranking organically. You could do it all day long. You can find 100,000 scenarios if you have enough time to sit there. It's everywhere and all over the place. Really, what the factor is what does the email look like when you contact them, or how did the phone call go whenever you were contacting them? And a lot of it has to come down to the salesmanship when you're on the phone. Jeremy, you come from a big career background, but did you get better at your sales pitch over time? Did it take you a while to get comfortable to talking to people, or were you just kicking butt right out of the gate?
Well, I think my kids think I'm a superhero, but in reality, no. I remember the very first call I ever made 20 years ago when I first got into the world of sales. It went something like this: click. And that was it. That same day, I also booked 12 deals after I got over that hump. For me, when I first got started into this, I looked to load my gun with bullets. And again, no pun intended. I worked viciously to try to find holes in the marketing process that they were doing, so that as I got nervous, as I felt like they weren't taking me seriously, I could shoot one of those bullets and make them think, make them answer something for me, put them on their heels. And so I think with that approach, you really do afford yourself a little bit of comfortability as you go into it.
Right. It makes sense. Now, I've got a couple questions coming here through here, Jeremy. I've got Yuri that's saying, okay, but you're telling me that the prospect, say they give you $1,000 for 6 months, and we'll let them know that, we'll see what happens. How else, other than having credibility, will this work? Letting them know that rough expectations on their rankings, but that credibility-wise, in the beginning when you don't have it, does that come through just in your salesmanship, and redirecting the conversation? Or, what's going to make your client feel secure that you're going to produce results for them? How do you win over that trust? Because if you're not able to give them a solid ROI, how do you win them over? How do they trust you?
I think number one, making sure that they have a clear belief that they are going to make money on Google. Just ask them, if I get you on the first page of Google, do you think you'll make more money? Yes, great. Now we've answered that question. The next thing is to let them know, by setting your expectations. What I tell people all the time is, listen, over the first, in a lot of cases, within the first 24 days, I'm already starting to show results. Now, does that mean that you're on the first page? No. That means that I'm able to show results. This is why I provide you with the dashboard, because you're going to be able to track those results. And as we go forward, you will see yourself consistently increasing in your rankings. Not to mention, you make sure that you give them an open door policy. Tell them, look, this is my cell phone number, and no, it's not one of 10 cell phones, it's just the cell phone. Here's my information. Give me a call if you're concerned, if you have an issue. Another thing that you can do is that the firm will send you, forgive me, I'm sorry. I use, for anybody outside of ERI, I just call ERI the firm. It's my little ambiguous way of not telling people exactly who I work with. my secret weapon.
Your dirty little secret.
Yes, my dirty little secret. But for me, I love the fact that the teams are sending us updates. So if they fix H1 tags, if they fix crawl errors, if they fix 301 redirects, they're sending you this information. And while it does seem a little overly technical, nobody's used to hearing anything. People are so used to buying SEO, and they just buy SEO. That's it. Once a month, they get this report that seems just as confusing as the words as the letters SEO. And in essence, they're really not getting anything. This is the reason why they're even considering working with any one of us. So, go that extra mile. Give them, tell them, I'm going to be here to report. I'm going to provide you with accountability, transparency. I'm going to provide you with a clear plan and strategy, and I'll be holding your hand the whole way, Mr. Business Owner. I think when you come at it with that approach, you bat away the, well, how much money are you going to make me right now? Because there's really not an answer to that unless they're in specifically an e-commerce type setting where they can give you the actual numbers of, okay, well, if I'm on the first page for this many keywords, I make this much money. If they can give you that information, great. But for the most part, most people are not, especially if you're going after service industries or, for instance, the gun shops.
Jeremy, this is now. What if the lead that you're speaking to is not yet sold on online marketing? Let's say that they were running a PPC campaign. It's not doing anything for them. They used to run SEO. They got ripped off. They're not sure at all if online marketing is even what they should be doing, and they started taking an ad out in the newspaper again. How do you overcome a client not even trusting online marketing? And have you ever closed a client that wasn't interested in online marketing, had a budget for it, but they really weren't interested in it, and somehow you got them interested and convinced that this is the way that you need to be going?
This may seem a little masochistic, but actually I enjoy those clients. I love going after the guy that says, "Oh, Google's just a fad." I like sending them little. I have little PDFs that I've been able to glean from Google that state, like for instance, last year in the state of Texas, $4.5 billion was made through Google. And so when I send them stuff like that, then I ask them again, "Is it still a fad?" and they stand back with it. I like to, again, I like to shoot holes in every ounce of the strategy that they have thus far. I like to show them how well your website's built in a front page site builder, which is antiquated and doesn't really work well with SEO. I like to poke holes in everything that they've done because invariably they always say, "Well, I paid for this before," and they always say the same thing, "And I only paid $100 for it." Now, whether they really did that or not, who knows? But there's plenty of guys out there that run SEO for dummies and think that they're an SEO, and so they charge $150, $250, $300, and the consumer believes that they're getting SEO, but in reality, they're just getting a light level of submission and just enough to where they the company can be paid for at least 3 months. But ultimately, by coming in and just letting people know that again, that we're going to set these expectations, that we're going to go through this process where we report, where we provide transparency and accountability. Ask them, how many times has somebody given you access to a dashboard? Never. How many times has somebody ever given you this type of keyword research? Never. I mean, just go that extra mile for them and show them that what I'm providing you is a clear business opportunity for you to increase the sales of your company. You really just have to beat back the dichotomy that people have about online marketing. Online marketing, unfortunately, the words online marketing are synonymous with, pardon my language, but asshole. And so we have a big job to
Yeah, and now, Jeremy, what about, where was I? I had a good question for you, dang it. I lost it. Too many questions I'm reading in front of me here. Where was I on that one? You were talking about the subject matter of people that are not interested in online marketing and winning them over. Not sure where I was going with that one.
Well, another way to do that is also pull the keywords. Pull the keyword report and show that how often these keywords are being searched. And in doing that, then show them everybody that's on the first page and ask them, okay, now understanding based on the prices I've given you, understanding that your competition are probably paying about the same prices, do you think that they place value on the internet? Obviously they do, because they're on the first page consistently. They're paying on the pay-per-click. Why are they doing this? Is it, are you really the only one that can go back to the newspaper and make as much money as they do? No.
Right.
Take away their confidence in traditional marketing, because it can definitely be done.
A couple more questions here. Mary's saying, how do you not charge a setup fee? Well, Mary, what we mean by the setup fee on SEO campaigns is sometimes people will inflate typical month one. Let's say that if you normally charge 2 to 3 times what we charge. So let's say you're charging your client normally $500 for month one, because that's twice what you're paying for it. Some people will charge $1,000 month one and just call it a setup fee. It's literally just an inflated month one charge just because you can. It's actually pretty common in the SEO and online marketing industry to charge a setup fee on month one, and that's what we're referring to as setup fee.
Yeah, you just don't make as much money in that first month as you would in the others. And again, it gives you a sales tool that you can come back and when you say, okay, you're shopping me against 3 other companies, well, are they charging you a setup fee? Yeah, they are. Great. I don't do that. Immediately, you just have a reason to push those other 2 guys off the table, because now they're saving money with you, or at least it's perceived that way. Because yes, we are charging 2-3 times more than what we're having to pay ERI for this.
And Jeremy, do you use you don't pull people into contracts, right? You don't do 6-month contracts. You don't do 1-year contracts.
Actually, I do. And again, my methodology is one of providing people with a modern marketing strategy. And so for a strategy to work, we're going to have to be married to a certain degree for a fair amount of time. Not to mention, if the goal is really to get them on the first page of Google for 10, 15, 20, 30 keywords, it's going to take time. So I do, but of course I have the ability for them to back out of my contract. If they're not happy and I can't make them happy, then they can just send me notice, and that's their last month that they pay me on. But I do use a contract. One technique that I have used in the past that worked really well for me when I first got started was to call people and offer them a 2-month trial period, where basically I put myself on probation. I offer my services at a discount. Of course, I didn't make any money for those first 2 months, but I put my services at a discount, and I tell them that I'm not going to get you on the first page of Google in those first 2 months. Please do not hold me to that. If I do, great, yay, pat me on the back. But if I don't, please don't hold me to the law that I'll get you on the first page of Google within those first 2 months. What I will do is I will show you clear results, and I will provide you permanent work done to your site. So in other words, if you don't want me after 2 months, it doesn't matter. The work that I've done will stay. And that seems to grab people's attention.
Right, yeah, and that's a really, really good point. Now, people are asking about ranking results and performance. Jeremy, you've ran a lot of campaigns for us, and you've had a lot of keywords optimized through us. Now, do you see a difference in a trend between some sites tend to rank really well and other sites do not rank quite as fast? Do you see good ranking performance as a result of the work that's being done on the sites?
I find that sites built in older programs, I find sites built through Dreamweaver, HTML are always more difficult to optimize. So for me, I always, whenever I build a website, I always tell people it's going to be in WordPress. I don't give them the option of Joomla, Drupal, HTML. I tell them flat out it's going to be in WordPress. And when they say why, I tell them, well, quite frankly, it's one of the oldest open source content management systems. It is well respected worldwide. It actually, I believe, last I read, I believe maybe a quarter or a fifth of all websites out there are built in WordPress. So it's very clear to understand. Not to mention, if I have to turn that site back over for one reason or another, they can easily go to YouTube and watch a tutorial on how to change things on their own. And most importantly, it is very, very, very SEO friendly. Not to mention, and this is not what I tell them, but when it comes to ERI, our SEO department seems to really appreciate WordPress over everything else.
Yeah, or just a well put together CMS, Joomla, Drupal, something that's just well put together. A lot of people have some custom platforms out there that you step into the back end on, and don't get me wrong, we'll work on any platform, But some of these platforms on the back end are really heavy. And not only are they heavy code-wise in a code-to-text ratio, but in terms of finding your way around, they're not intuitive. You know, you're like, oh, how do I find this? You're like, oh, go over here, turn that corner, go down the stairs, now walk up 3 elevators. It's crazy. They're not always intuitive, nor do they have documentation on even how to navigate, and it really takes some time to figure them out. Typically, when it takes you a lot of time to figure it out, it takes Google a lot of time to figure it out too when they're crawling through the site. So Jeremy, you're saying that you're seeing some better ranking performance with sites that are put together better.
Yeah. It's, as far as I'm concerned, I really like to rebuild my client sites if I can. And again. My model is different. I go after design more so than SEO. I go after brand. I'm a brand-focused company, so my methodology may not be the best for everybody else's. But I would suggest, if you can, go after a WordPress site. It's always going to be easier.
Now, Jeremy, do you only work with local clients? Eric's asking.
No, I work nationwide. I have clients in California, DC. I have clients in Dallas. Working on a client in Denver. It was kind of funny that you got Denver gun. And no, it's not a gun store. I have, so I work everywhere if possible.
People are curious, how large is your in-house staff?
Well, that's quite funny. My in-house staff is myself and the lovely Miss Jennifer Williams, sitting on the other side of the room from me right now. And, of course, my brilliant wife has a heavy accounting background, and so she makes sure that all the dollars are accounted for. But other than that, that's it.
You know, I say this a lot to people that because people come in there wanting to hire a salesman right away. Of course, if any of you had someone like Jeremy, you've got a sales team of 10 guys because this guy doesn't sleep, and I don't think you drink much coffee either. I don't know, but
No, Kathy doesn't agree with me.
I'll bet it doesn't. Puts you right to sleep, right?
That's exactly right.
If you start hiring salesmen, I mean, I think it gets a little bit out of your hand. In my opinion, a good president or CEO, even if you're a one-man army, is to start out as your company's salesman. You only need one. And you could have 50 to 100 marketing campaigns with just one salesman. I mean, like Jeremy said, he has an assistant that will set up meetings for him and maybe go after some leads and set it up. But you don't need anything more than that if you have one really good salesman. And preferably it's you if you're small, you know. And that's really the nature of the structure with working with us. I mean, if you start getting really busy, it should be in sales. And if you get busy in the project management side, then Jeremy, you probably agree that probably if you're a one-man army, the first person that you're going to staff is probably going to be someone to take care of your project management, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. Quite frankly, I can tell everybody this one with absolute confidence. We have a ton of competition, and most of those competitors care more about selling. If you go look at Yodel.com, Outrank.com, Local Splash, these are all companies that don't care one bit, one iota about their clientele. And you can tell that, by the way, by the fact that they provide no exclusivity, by the fact that they will sell you a rented website, so it sours people. I mean, I think one of the reasons why I love SEO so much is because it's so much like private investments. People have been burned and screwed so many times, so it just really warms their hearts, and they will stick with you forever, good, bad, or indifferent, if you are the one person that they finally get to work with that trades above board with them and it gives them good, solid expectations and is always there for them. And so, yeah, that's good. I'm sorry.
Getting some feedback, Jeremy. People are saying they really appreciate your perspective, and I really appreciate you talking to people as well. Some people are curious, are you getting paid to do this webinar, and if so, how much?
No. I mean, I have a stated price of $1 million per hour, but Paul has told me that we have to go back to negotiations on that.
Yeah, I got to renegotiate. Yeah, Jeremy actually gets no perks out of this. So, Jeremy, what is your motivation to step away from your company and spend time on a webinar talking to a bunch of other people that are trying to do something similar to what you're doing. I mean, isn't that counterproductive to your business?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because people don't buy SEO. People don't buy products more so than they buy people. You know, no one on this call is ever going to sound just like me, and I'm never going to sound just like them. So that's not something that worries me. And for me, really, I think that that the most important aspect is that we as a group can start creating more accountability in this industry. I mean, you know, when you think about it, you look at modern medicine, and modern medicine 80 years ago, 90% of people thought doctors were quacks, and most of them were. It took 80 years of education, research, and development. It took 80 years of regulation to finally get us to a point where now 90% of the people out there want to go to the doctor. Well, guess what? Google and the whole concept of online marketing just popped up, what, 15 years ago? So we're still very early, and there's still a lot of crackpots out there. And I know for a fact that anybody out there that is selling ERI services, I know for a fact that they are selling good services. Now it comes down to how you present it. Now it comes down to how you manage those expectations. And if we're all on the same page as to what accountability really is in this industry, well, then I'm looking at 173 people, 172 people right now. That's a lot of people that are going to start changing the mentality of this industry and actually start giving back credibility where credibility is due.
Right, I appreciate that. You know, what Jeremy said to me on the reason why he was willing to come on and do the webinar was that, you know, hey, anything that I can do to help you guys out. If you're running my back end and you guys are doing well, then I do better. If we're doing well, it means our technologies move faster, our teams become more organized, become more structured, trusting that we put our money back into the company. So it's really a partnership, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, I like what I do so much is because people get a sense of partnership with us. The better we do, the better you do. The better you do, the better we do. And we're both working to take care of each other. And that's the reason why right now, you know, we've got 171 people sitting on a webinar all tuning into the same voice. So, you know, it's kind of nice to see things push in that way. Last webinar, we had some people come out with some cool sales secrets that they were able to release, and hopefully that helps people out as well. Stuart's asking, Jeremy, do you meet with prospects in person, or is it all phone-based?
Well, for me, you know, I'm a different bird. I'm actually visually impaired, Stuart, so I don't like to drive if I can possibly help it. But I do meet occasionally. If someone's really adamant about meeting me in person, then I will. But for the most part, everything can be done over the phone. I mean, you know, when I was selling investments, I would close people for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and over a series of 6 years, they never one time ever laid eyes on me. So, you know, don't be afraid to sell over the phone, and certainly don't think that you have to make a deep investment into your car and into your suit collection and everything else, so that you can go out and perform for them.
Jeremy, did you just say you can't see very well, but you still drive?
Hey, you know what? That's the state of Texas that's getting my license, so it's up to them.
You got like a blind stick you put out on the road. Yeah, I'll get there to close lead.
No. I just know that whenever I can read their license plate that I'm getting too close.
The state of Texas. I think I misinformed someone earlier that you were from California. I don't know where my head was on that. But, okay, so, Jeremy, do you have a specific list of questions that you ask to determine the quality of a potential client? Or do you just wing it? Like, it was still, how do you determine the quality of a client? What makes you say this is going to be a good client between this is going to be a big waste of my time?
Well, for me, I like to ask people how they get their business. If people tell me that, oh, I get most of my business from word of mouth, I ask them, okay, so are you comfortable? Are you happy with where you're at right now? If they say, oh yeah, I'm great. And I like to punch them in the gut at that point. I ask them, so you wouldn't be happy if we could increase your business? And sometimes they'll say no when they do hang up. There's no sense in talking to somebody who's complacent, because complacency is the worst disease, the worst silent disease in the world of business. It's the reason why 500,000 companies start every year and 480,000 fail every year. Because most people do not understand what it is to be a business owner. So I really look and poke to try to get somebody to tell me whether or not they are wanting to grow as a company. And if they do, then great. I have every reason in the world for them to keep talking to me. If not, no harm, no foul. Go talk to the guy who's going to charge you $100.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's see. Glenn's saying, regarding PPC, how do you go about the markup on that? I have found that the ER wholesale prices seem too high on the percent management fees. Jeremy, how do you work with that if we're managing PPC campaigns? Our management fees are roughly, around 20% of ad spend, but
For me, I really don't look to make a lot of money off of PPC. I consider PPC a form of temporary marketing. So if they want me to take their PPC, if they've got it and they need somebody to manage it, I'll be more than happy to work with them. Typically, those are the kind of people that are only spending $1,000, $2,000 a month. And so, charging them a 30% ad spend total, I pay my 20% to ERI, I make a 10% lick. I now have a reason to get at them on the phone and them not hang up on me. So now I start talking about SEO. I just use it as leverage. Now, if you get the guy that it's a part of their business model that PPC is there because they sell lanyards to the Nintendo Wii and they do it all online, well, then that person's got an ad spend of several $1,000s, and you can go to Paul, you can go to ERI, and you can tell them, look, this cat wants to spend 10 grand. I promise you that they'd be willing to work with you on making sure that maintenance fee can come to a point where it's reasonable.
Yeah, and the type of PPC management that we do is hands-on management. I mean, for those of you who aren't used to PPC, I mean, you're setting clicks per keyword and adjusting bids and looking at the conversion ratio and all of that in a management platform to Google AdWords. But there's a lot of platforms out there that tie into AdWords that allow you to manage campaigns more easily, and we don't use those because you don't have as much control. For instance, with Acquisio, you can have the slider and what I call the dummy controls, and some other programs have them as well, and they try to semi-automate everything. We don't use those. We spend time manually adjusting everything like we should be doing, and it really does take quite a bit of time. But the main point that Jeremy said was, I'm not trying to make money on PPC. And the main thing I convey to people that unless they have a large PPC budget, you're not going to be making much money on PPC. You're going to be handling their PPC budget because guess what? If you're running their SEO campaign and they want to run PPC and you don't run their PPC, they're going to go find a PPC provider, and their PPC provider probably offers SEO as well. And when they want to consolidate their services underneath one roof, well, the other guy offers both and you don't, so he might take your business. And that's a motivating factor. No.
And quite frankly, when they start complaining about paying so much for PPC, all the more reason to do more SEO.
Yeah.
Agree
absolutely.
with them.
Absolutely.
Agree with them. If they say, "Oh my God, I'm paying so much money for PPC," tell them, I know, sugar, you are. I tell you what, we can fix that by working on the LVLO. We can fix that by working on SEO.
You want some social media?
Yeah, exactly. Take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, getting through some more questions here. Sarah is asking to hear your sales pitch, but Sarah, I don't know if Jeremy really has a sales pitch. I think I don't know. How do you respond to that question, Jeremy?
I can't say that I really have a sales pitch. I'm just me. What you guys have heard thus far, this is how I talk to people. I'm very real with them. I talk to them as if who I am. I know what it's like to wake up in the morning, sit in front of my computer screen, and go, "Oh God, how are we going to pay the bills today?" And so I just put that mindset on, and when I call them, and I look for a few bullets to get myself in. Such as, my God, you're hemorrhaging money on PPC and it could be better, or your SEO is abysmal and your client and your competition is kicking your butt. Are you happy with that? Or even go so far as to look up their hosting. Go look up. Here's a little tip for all of you. Go look up somebody's URL before you call them on Whois, and you'd be amazed at how many companies are making millions of dollars and still don't own their own URL.
So you go to whoishosting.com.
I'm not sure who is hosting.
Oh, that's right. That's Whois domain. So
Yeah. Whois.
You see if they own their own domain or not.
Yeah. Yeah, find out if they own their domain. Typically, they don't, because typically companies will purchase the domain for their, client says, hey, I want you to do this for me. So they'll go out there and purchase the domain in their name. And in reality, it's not their property. I mean, a URL is an asset. That asset should be in the name of the person who owns it, and that should be the client. Well, a lot of people don't believe in this. Then they do this for the simple fact that when the client says, oh, well, I want to go over to, Endless Rise, I want to go over to this other company, they say, oh, well, okay, but, you'll still have to pay us for the hosting, or we'll keep your URL. And it's basically a leverage tool for them. I don't find it to be, very ethical, but it's a leverage tool for them to hang on to the client. And so, there's just so many different little things that you can use to start a conversation with them. And it's through that conversational pitch that you show people that you're not just another salesperson sitting in a telemarketing room. You're a business owner too. You're a person who understands the value of what it is that you sell.
Makes sense. Jeremy, do you do call tracking for your clients?
Call tracking? No, I do not.
Right. Yeah, and Lori, thanks for asking that. Call tracking is something that we're working on getting integrated into the dashboard. We have a lot of plans for our reporting section. We're working on some exciting stuff. What we have in the plans for the first quarter of 2013, by the end of the first quarter, we're working on tearing down a version of the campaign tracker to your client portal, and they would be able to come in and see a live breakdown of all their directories that they're in or not in, like in the top 200, and the status in all of those. They're going to be able to come in and see their social statistics and tracking on that. We're going to be pulling in a special traffic analysis and keyword analysis dashboard to show them all of the keywords that they have that they're ranking for, and not just the ones we're targeting, but they might be ranking for 200 keywords, and we might as well show them that in the traffic that's coming across those. And then we're also going to be pulling in call tracking, so that actually how they will be able to weigh the results of their campaign won't be just based on a ranking dashboard. It's going to be based on a lot more. That'll be about a quarter of it when we're done with this. So exciting things to come in the first quarter of 2013. We're already in development on majority of that. Now, let's see here. Jeremy, if their website sucks, do you start with that first? Dan's asking. Do you do the redesign and conversion optimization, or if someone has a website and it's horrible, but they said, hey, my nephew built this thing, I can't give it up, it's really important to me, will you go ahead and do SEO on their website even if it sucks, or do you pretty much shove it down their throat that you've got to rebuild this thing? This is just ridiculous. Now, I got to give you a reality check, buddy.
Well, I can be a little harsh at times. I have been known to tell people that this site looks like it was built by a kindergartner, and then they tell me that their brother does it. I tell people all the time, you don't pay me to tell you what you want to hear. You pay me to tell you what you need to hear. As far as this, if the site is workable, I have a great example right now with one of my newest clients. The site was built in HTML. The guy basically designed it and then launched it and then never called the client back to go through revisions. So we had to put in 15 hours worth of revisions just to get the site to where the guy wanted it to be in the first place. Misspelled words, funky links, things of that nature. So I'll do my best to work with what they have. Occasionally, the site is so incredibly old that SEO team, campaign management will come back to you and tell you, Jeremy, we got to do something because this site isn't going to do it. And so in that case, you actually, you'll get a clear understanding from the campaign management as to what's really wrong with the site, and now you have something you can go back to the client for and tell them, look, I want to do it, I can do it, but the site's just not capable. But for the most part, no, I don't try to shoehorn them into it. I'd prefer get them started on SEO, get them ranking for 5, 10, 15 keywords, start showing them what they've always been wanting, and then from there I can come back, and now I have all the leverage in the world. They'll practically let me watch their kids.
Right. That's a great way of putting it. And a lot of people really need their site redesigned. It's really important that they get it redesigned, for sure.
Yep.
Dee's asking, are you saying that we can use that WordStream PPC tool you were talking about to look at anyone's PPC campaign? Dee, yes, that is correct, but the owner of that PPC AdWords campaign would have to grant you access because you have to enter the access into the tool to get it to run its report. It can't analyze their PPC campaign if it doesn't, if you don't have the access to enter in, which is simple. It's a username and password. Once you enter it in, if it has access, it'll run the report. Okay, so Kate said, I just did a 6-month contract. The client asked for a discount if he paid upfront instead of monthly, and I said yes. Well, Kate, that's probably a good point. I'd say yes too.
Yeah, I actually offer 10% in my contract, 10% if you're willing to pay the full thing, to pay everything in full. It's a convenience to me, and it assures that I'm getting my money.
Absolutely. And Trevor's on here, and he's asking, Jeremy, at what point do you bring up the cost with the client? Or at what point does the client ask about the costs? I mean, if you're talking to a client, you know, you got them on the phone, your assistant sent them an email or give them a quick phone call, scheduled an introduction meeting to see how they can get their PPC costs down because you found them running a PPC campaign, they were not ranking organically. You get on your first meeting the first time you're talking to them. At what point do you bring up the cost? At what point do they say, hey, can we cut the chit-chat? I want to know how much you're going to be charging me to fix my woes. I mean, when does this come up? When do you drop the bomb on them?
You know, typically it varies. You know, a lot of people, everybody wants to know the cost factor. You know, I like to try to find out somewhere before that question gets there how much money they've paid in the past. You know, because a lot of people will tell you, oh, I've been paying $300 a month for the last year, and you know, why do you mean, you know, so what are you going to charge me? And that's when I tell them, well, first of all, there's a reason why I called you, because your $300 a month hasn't been doing much for you. Quite frankly, you're not. You know, you need to understand that this is an investment that you have to make into your company for the long term, and you need to make sure that you're paying good quality people. $300 a month. I don't know anyone who can survive on $300 a month and provide good quality service. So I dispel the amount of price, the amount of dollars that they've been shelling out over the last year or so. And then from there, I let them know that, well, it's going to depend on how many keywords we're going to go after. If we're going to go after 5 keywords, I'm going to charge you $125 a keyword. If we're going to go after 30, I'm going to charge you 90. If we're going to go after somewhere in between there, well, it's the same way with the price. It's going to be somewhere in between there.
Right, it makes sense.
I don't give them complete rates because you know, at times, you know, especially if the guy's used to paying $300 a month, he's going to have a coronary if you tell him, okay, well, I'm going to need you to chalk up, you know, $3,000 for me.
Right, right. And Jeremy, James is asking a really good question, and something you're probably a really good person to respond with, because Jeremy's worked with our staff a lot. In fact, Jeremy, you probably, I don't know, you probably know, you're probably on a well first name basis with a lot of different points of contact within our staff. And James is asking, how do you communicate with ERI typically? You know, whether by phone or email, support ticket, or Skype. How do you get the most out of the staff? And how does he get what he wants out of the staff?
Well, for me, I communicate mostly through Skype because I have my font set a little bigger there, and it's also a direct link into the team. I make it a point that I've gone in and renamed each one of my Skype accounts for the SEO team and what have you, campaign management, local search optimization, I'm sorry, LBLO. Sorry guys, what the firm calls LBLO, I call LSO, local search optimization. So forgive me if I but yeah. So I use Skype for the most part, and I make sure that I rename those to my company's name, you know, SEO team, you know, my company's name, local search team. Then from there, as far as communication is concerned, I think the most important thing to understand is that while yes, English is a second language there, it's the second language there, which means that using colloquial language, using things like ballpark figure, I promise you, you're going to have half the people at ERI scratching their heads wondering what in the hell ballpark figure means.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very straight with them. You can't, I wouldn't say talk to them like you would your neighbor. One of the things that's been most successful for me is the fact that I am very nice to them. I thank everybody consistently. I say please. I remember what my grandma always told me: please and thank you. And just being polite. They're not always going to understand every direction that you give them. They're not always going to get it the first time. So be patient with them. The beautiful part about it, I guess the best way to look at ERI is very much like a computer. In a computer, it could be the best computer in the world, but if you give it improper instruction, it's still going to give you a bad answer. So if, ERI can be the greatest company in the world, but if you give them improper direction or if you tell them something that they don't understand, then you can expect that you're not going to get the right results. So if it comes back that they misunderstood something, just politely correct them and make sure you're a little bit more explicit the second time, and you'll find that they correct the problem very quickly. More importantly, be nice. Be nice, be nice, be nice, because these people work their butts off, and they do to come in screaming at them and everything else will only hurt you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we do good work, but some people get a little bit out of control if they don't get their way with some things. But working with the staff, I think one of the best ways to work with them, if there's any back and forth, it really does pay to simply pick up the phone and you can get things answered. Or on Skype seems to work really well as well.
Mm-hmm. And whatever you do not cuss. For the most part, people in the Philippines are very devout in their Catholic faith, and they do not take kindly to trash language.
Well, most people don't either, It's kind of universal principles there. Now, in terms of the results that you see, Jeremy, people are asking about the tactics that we currently employ on our campaigns. Are they producing the results for you?
Like I said, I have a client who for 11 years chalked up maybe 5% of his business to online marketing. I rebuilt his site in WordPress. I launched an SEO campaign 9 months ago, 10 months ago, almost 11 months ago. And he now attributes 95% of his business to the internet. He actually saved $30,000 this year on print ads. So do I think that it works? Oh, you bet your sweet butt it does. You just have to follow all of the rules. When they come back to you asking for content, make sure you let your client know what it really means to get keyword optimized content. 90% of the time, you just tell them that they need 350 to 400 words. They need to mention each one of the target keywords twice. They can use the stop word once, and they have to mention the anchor text once, and they immediately say, well, can you do this for me? Now you have an upsell. But you make sure you get that content done, turned in, make sure you get all the access that they need, make sure that you're following what the campaign management is telling you to do, and your clients will be successful.
So on the clients that follow the results, the off-page optimization is a booster. It continues to work.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? And now that we've improved our process, and we allow the client the ability to give us fodder and give us feedback on what they would like to see in a PR, and we can now customize those PRs. Oh my God, my people are absolutely raving. Every client that I have that has been in SEO for more than 3 months is absolutely raving about what we do.
Yeah, Ton asked me a question. I'll go ahead and answer on here about article spinning and directory submissions. The articles that we write are spun, but it's not, article spinning it's kind of like one of those things, like internet marketing has a really bad name and article spinning has this horrible name to it, but there's a lot of different types of article spinning. People are used to this one button spin, and it doesn't spin to the right density. It doesn't do things correctly. The way that we do our articles is we don't do a tremendous amount of them off of one article, and whenever we spin them, what it does is it changes the way that the article's put together off of a syntax, but then an editor goes in and actually makes sure that all of the writing is done the right way. And the way that press releases are submitted online is that you take one press release and you blast it out to a lot of different distribution points. That's the nature of the content. Google itself owns FeedBurner, which takes your content whenever you put it on Blogger or wherever, and it feeds it out to quite a few different distribution points. Even Google does that. So to take content and put it at multiple distribution points, you get a little bit of a stronger feedback on it if you have some original, uniqueness to each piece of content that you place. It's not so much about the content itself, as long as it's unique and some decent content, but it's not even about being 100% unique, really. A lot of it has to do with the sites that it's being put on, the anchor text that's being pulled back to the site. A lot of the search engine updates that were done, it had to do with the quantity of the links, but a lot of the updates on Penguin and Panda that applied was what was in the anchor text on the backlinks that were coming in, you know. And Noble Samurai did a really great study on that, on about, you know, the percentage of links that you should be having coming back to your site, just on, you know, a rough basis on how many links should be like your company name or random, such as click here or see this, and how many of them should be the target anchor text, such as the keyword or some sort of another version of the keyword, whether it's a phrase or some synonyms put in there, or it has some stop words and things like that. And we've made all of those updates to comply. And as far as directory submissions still being of value or not, directory submissions will always be of value. Always. In a really high value automated directory submissions, no, that's not a good idea. But the directory submissions that we do by hand. The LBLO on the level 2 and level 3 on that service, on those 340 directory submissions, those are done through data aggregators. But it's not this tremendous high volume, go here, buy 3,000 directory submissions type of a thing. And to be honest, I mean, what we really weigh is does what we do, does it work or does it not? And at the end of the day, that's what we're looking into. And usually the things that we find that are holding it up has to do with keyword density or on-page issues, or it has to do with the backlinks having some anchor text issues. You know, the backlinking we do through blogs and forums is really powerful, and especially the what we call the blog and forum commenting. So, yeah, Todd, the backlinking does produce. Typically, whenever we look into it and we put campaign store revision auditing, it's not the backlinks that are the issue. It's typically something else, or something we started having issues with is sites that have a lot of duplicate content site-wide. An e-commerce site that has 500 pages and they have 10 pages of uniquely written content on there about us and product overview, but every single product page is duplicate content off the manufacturer, and they're getting dinged for it all of a sudden. So, yeah, there's quite a bit to it. We are working on a new service set release that we're going to be releasing. My target is by the new year. We're going to be releasing a new SEO service set. We'll continue with the old. It's working well, but we will be updating it, as well as the LBLO and new PPC services. We'll be upgrading all of those, and we'll have some exciting new releases and all of those coming as of the new year. And we're working with some top consultants in the industry that probably all of you have heard of, or could easily Google and find who they are, on our processes. And we're even working with one particular big consultant, especially on how to rank in Google Maps, that's even hired a full-time employee just to facilitate streamlining some of our processes and making sure that we're in touch with companies that have metrics in place that really closely track, when they make small changes to marketing campaigns, what makes the largest change and increases in their rankings. And so we're pretty excited about our new service release that we have coming out for 2013. As those of you who've been working for us for a while know, that about once a year we come out with an annual service update. So we're due for that one. Okay, Courtney says, have you ever had a client that has a corporate replicated site and a redirect? Redirect would redirect to the corporate template. Client had a corporate replicated site. I see. It pretty much, Courtney's asking if we've ever had someone who has a company website and they're redirecting their own domain to it. And in that case, that's the case where they want to build their own site, typically.
Yeah, no, I've not had that. I've not run into that at this point. You know, I am interested in targeting franchises in the future, and when I do, I actually would. No, so I guess to really give you the short answer, no, I haven't.
Jeremy, Andy's asking, do you have any services that you offer your clients outside of Endless Rise? And if so, do your clients have any questions about why you're not able to monitor those services from inside of our dashboard? Which I do want to point out to people that if you have a client with us in the dashboard, you can actually add your own reports to your clients in our dashboard and share it to your clients and have it show up in their client portal seamlessly. So even if you're running other services for your client in our dashboard, you can still upload your own reporting in there and share it to your client as long as you have at least one service for that client with us. But Jeremy, do you offer any other services outside of what Endless Rise offers? Such as your branding?
Yeah. As I said earlier in the call, we're a very brand-focused firm because it's one thing to just push the generic product. It's a whole other thing to help people step outside of the generic and become a branded product. There's a reason why 4 out of 5 people out there purchase a branded product over purchasing a non-branded. And so I work with a couple of designers out of DC and in other places in the United States that are brand specialists. And so once we've isolated a good prospect for this, we bring them in, we put them through an analysis process, and in doing so, we uncover a lot of things they didn't know about themselves, and a lot of things that give us tools to work with as we go forward when it comes to SEO. I also provide script writing for radio bits. I provide let's see, what else? Print advertising. We also provide the design for those print ads, and we help clients isolate where the best where their money is going to be best spent when it comes to print ads. Because print isn't completely dead, but it is certainly by no stretch of the imagination something that somebody should park their entire car on, so to speak.
Great. Now,
and just so you know, for like my branding and my design clients, I actually use a project manager to help deal with that, because a project manager it gives the ability to set timelines and it gives the ability for discussion on aspects of that timeline, upload files, things of that nature.
Lori says, Paul, can you ask Jeremy when he says Asian countries work on a collective system? I really want to know what that means. Earlier you mentioned that you said I think you mentioned that your team in Asia works on a collective system. Were you referring to the dashboard, or were you referring that maybe that they're all just in-house underneath one roof working collectively together as a system?
No, actually, I got this from a class in college. When you look at the general work style of the West versus the East, the West is more of an individualistic style. Everybody wants to shoot from the hip. Everybody's a maverick. Everybody's greater than anybody else around them. But when you look at the Eastern philosophy, it is very much collective. There is no person that is greater than another. This is the reason why ERI's teams work so well, why you can just make a simple email to webdesign@endlessrise.com, and skidabam, you have all of these, you have anywhere from 1 to 85 different people that can grab a hold of it and know what to do with it. And so when people sit there and go, oh, well, I'd rather work with somebody who's all local, you tell them, well, that's fine, but you're going to get a smaller team, and with my approach, I'm going to give you a very large collective that I'm going to be taking your work to. So if one person can't figure it out, I promise you somebody in that floor can.
Right. Power in numbers, really.
Yeah, I mean manpower. Just telling people, look, I have manpower. Are the companies that you're using or companies that you're putting me up against? How big is their SEO team? And when they go back and ask that question, and the person is either ambiguous and doesn't give an answer, or they say, oh, well, we've got 5 of the best guys in the country. Great. Now you have all the more reason to work with me, because I don't just rely on 5 of the best guys.
Right. Makes sense. Now, Glenn says, how do you go about the markup on the PPC?
I think we covered that earlier, but markup on PPC, again, it's not a place to make a lot of money. Unless you're working with somebody that is by the sheer very nature of their business model, is going to use PPC, and those people spend $20,000, $30,000 a month easily. So you can come at that would be more of something that you would tailor along, with Paul or with somebody in the company. But for me, I just charge a 10% markup, and that 10% markup makes me a little bit of change. But again, it's now my in. Excuse me, that's my in for coming back and pitching them on SEO, pitching them on other services. I mean, the greatest thing for people to understand the difference between PPC and SEO is PPC is temporary, SEO is permanent.
And do you do reputation management, Jeremy?
I have not come across that at this point. I'm reticent to do so because most people that need reputation management have screwed up, and I do not like working with screw up. As a matter of fact, I even have it in my contract that if I find out that you're fraudulent, if I find out that you're hurting people with your business model, that I will fire you. So I can't say that I've done a lot of reputation management, but I am working on a prospect right now that would need reputation management only because he's looking to be somewhat of a famous person within his industry.
And have you ever had any? Do you have an ongoing issue getting past the barrier of speaking to the decision maker of the lead, getting a decision maker on the line?
I don't really let that stop me. Once I get somebody that cares about whether or not their phone rings or whether or not that company is still in business, and believe it or not, there's plenty of assistants out there that would love to have more job security. I immediately start pitching those people and get them to the point where they go, you know what, that sounds pretty good. And then at that point, they tend to want to push me over to their boss, who's already, because really their job is to be that gatekeeper. So, talk to the gatekeeper and respect the gatekeeper just as much as you would the decision maker, because you never know when that gatekeeper is somebody's daughter or somebody's wife.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or somebody's husband.
Okay, I'm just still skimming through these questions. Jeremy, how do you handle hosting?
I actually resell for GoDaddy. Sorry, Paul, you guys don't offer hosting yet. But
good
I
reason.
resell for GoDaddy.
Oh.
And so the reason why is because GoDaddy's been around forever. They service a quarter of the world's internet or a third of the world's internet, and they're very reliable. They have a fair reseller program, and as a matter of fact, I like to provide all of my clients with their hosting, even to the point where I will purchase the first year's worth of hosting for them because it doesn't cost me that much money, but it puts it under my management, so I assure that I won't have any problems.
Right, that makes sense. And let's see. And Jeremy, what sales consultants are you used to working with? Over here at ER. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I really love me some Justin. I love me some Allo. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, my Skype is shut down, so I don't have all my people in front of me. But I believe her name is Glaisa. All three of those folks. Every time I need anything, when it comes to web design or web development, I do look to talk to Roy and Rod. Both of those guys are excellent. So yeah, those are some of the people that I work with. But I will always and forever endorse Justin and Allo, because those are the ones I work with most.
Big shout out to them, huh? You have to send over some beer money.
Telling you, love my peeps.
Dan's asking how many people are at ERA now. Last time I checked, we were around 280. We're probably around 285, 290 people by now. I assume we'll break 300 employees by the new year. So yeah, and I tell you what, I'll try to get a video shot up of the facility, hopefully within a week or two, so that everyone can see our facility. I think everyone would like that. Just like a video walkthrough tour. We actually have two different offices, one right on top of the other. One's on the 31st floor in a high-rise that we're in, and then our upstairs office is on the 32nd floor, and there's just stairs that connect the two. I think everyone would like to see that because our office is actually pretty large, and it's a very nice office and a very nice building. So I think it just kind of helps people to see that when you're running a a high-level operation versus some people think that, you know, when you're in the Philippines, you're out in the middle of some field in a hut, you know, just kind of the stereotype. But I guarantee you we're not sitting in a hut, sitting on laptops and Pentium 4s. It's a large production with a very high overhead, guarantee you. That's great. I got some people giving shout-outs to their favorite sales consultants. Shout-out to Glyza as well as Justin and Alo and Abigail. Let's see here. Jenna says, if a client no longer has an active campaign running, can they still access the dashboard, and can we add reports to it? That is correct, Janice. You can. Boy, you got a lot of questions piling in here. I think, oh boy, we got a lot of questions piling in. Jeremy, people are really loving you being on the phone here. Now, people are asking. Wow, I think we just got about. Maybe it's just populating now. Yeah, Michael said, I pictured you all sitting on the beach with drinks and umbrellas and a laptop. Yeah, every day. But I tell you what, back in the day, we did do a lot more of that. Brian said, power outages plague the islands. What do you do to ensure availability? Brian, yeah, you're right. Power outages do plague the islands. We're not just on any island. Let me just show some people.
I was going to say, show up in the building. Oh my God, you guys have a hell of a setup.
Yeah, this is an example of the Makati skyline that I have on my screen here that people can see. And I wonder if I can actually point out the building. We are, boy, it's hard to point out. I think that we're just behind this building right here. Right about there, I believe. I don't know. I might be a little bit off. But anyways, we're right in the middle of big downtown. So we're not like on the typical, you know, you're on an island that gets hit. We're in the middle of infrastructure, right? We're in the central business district. So if there's ever any power issues or there's ever any internet issues, we're the first area that's always going to get things fixed. And for power outages, honestly, we have not experienced power outages even in big storms. We did not experience power outages this year. The only power outages that we experienced were due to scheduled maintenance, and it was all scheduled, really. We've had flickering of lights before, but this year we haven't had any power outages at all. And there's a certain degree of backup power generation, and all of our servers also are running off of, you know, they have their, what do you call them, those power batteries that they all plug into. But in terms of internet lines on redundancy, we pull off of 2 different fiber lines from 2 different internet providers so that we have our redundancy. And our downtime really isn't there. You know, this year we got hit by a horrible storm that hit, you know, world news. And we were down for about 3 days because of people not being able to make it to work. But, you know, that was it for the year. So, but it's because it's right. It's because we're right in the middle of this central business district. If we were even 30 miles out or even 15 miles out from the central business district, but we're literally in one of these big buildings on the 31st floor. There's embassies over here in these buildings. There's big industry over here in these big buildings. There is a big infrastructure over here in the Philippines, especially Makati is the central business district of the Philippines, and a lot of people don't understand what kind of an operation it is that we're running and where we're located at. That's the reason why we have so much uptime and we have the professionalism that we have. A lot of it has to do with our facilities and the way that we present ourselves and you know, where we're located at. And, of course, if you ever need a vacation for some fun viewing, we have Palawan. The nice thing is, if you ever come over here to visit and say, hey, I'm making good money through Endless Rise, I'm going to come over there and visit you guys. Palawan is probably one of the top-rated islands to visit for tropical islands in the world. I mean, about anyone that's any big, famous person has probably wanted to go to Palawan or has seen it. Palawan is an amazing place in the Philippines, and then, of course, I think Boracay is one of the top-rated party islands in the world as well. But yeah, the people that have come out here to see us, they definitely enjoy the island life because it's just a hop and a skip away from the big city that we're in. So, there's a lot of perks to living in the Philippines, that's for sure. A lot of beautiful things to see if anyone ever wants to come over and give us a visit. And hopefully, Jeremy, I think you're long overdue on coming over here. What happened to that? I thought you were on your way over here.
Oh, are you kidding me? When you have twins, nobody will babysit, and so I've got another 2 years before my boys are completely potty trained, and my in-laws will actually entertain them for a week. But yes, and hey, I'll tell everybody now, the most expensive thing that you'll ever pay for in going to the Philippines is the plane ticket.
Is the what?
Is the what? Is the plane tickets. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
You start looking up different places to stay. Oh my God. I'm telling you, I've already figured out where I'm retiring.
Absolutely. Definitely a good place to retire. Well, I'd like to go ahead and start wrapping up the webinar. And Jeremy, it'd be great to have you on again at some point in time and do some role play. I know a lot of people have been saying how much they appreciate you being on. I tell you what, if everyone will write in their comments on whether they want Jeremy back on here or not, give him some motivation to hop back on. He's a busy guy. He's running his company just like you're running, and took the time out of his day to hop on. And I think that people can really hear from speaking to Jeremy that really he's a no BS kind of guy. He's not hopping on here and trying to blow steam up everybody's butt and tell them things just for you to hear on the good side on us. He's being very honest with what he's built up, and Jeremy's built up a really good company for himself from scratch from using our services. And, our team loves interacting and working with Jeremy because, like Jeremy said, he's always very nice to them no matter what. He really enjoys working with them, and it works very well together with our team. He really utilizes our team well, from the sales component to the campaign management component, and to making sure that he's really managing his clients' expectations and making sure that he's getting them all of their access that they need to work on the campaign and getting all of the tasks done that are sent his way on the campaigns. And he's always on the sales track. Jeremy, I would like for you to comment on one thing, because this is something I run into a lot with small businesses. They get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or even 10 clients, and what they do is they end up sitting on those 10 clients and babysitting them because of their livelihood, and they're so scared of losing one of them that they don't continue out on the sales path, and they really get stuck in babysitting them and just harboring them. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, how much of your time is spent to say, I have to protect my livelihood on my existing campaigns versus trucking down the sales route?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And the answer is truly evolving as we speak. But for me, I am working on devoting certain amounts of time, such as Monday and Friday are spent on managing my clients. I have to give props to my new assistant Jennifer, who is managing things from the back end as far as making sure our clients get their PR information in. They make sure that they get their promotions and specials in on time. But I really, once you get a client off and running, the firm is ERI is really going to take care of everything else from a tech standpoint. So, just manage your time. Make sure that you are communicating with your client once a month or better. But other than that, set up a day, 2 days a week that you spend specifically on finding new business. If you only set up 1 or 2 days specifically for that purpose, then you can assure that you're not going to ignore any of your existing clients, because they are your livelihood, and you should be giving 60% of your time to them. But it also creates a level of discipline for you, so that you know that you're not missing a beat in regard to going after those new clients.
Now, Jeremy, how long is if you sell SEO to a client, what's your average duration on your retention on a client?
My oldest client has been with me for 2.5 years. I've only lost one client, and that was because their nephew got into SEO, and I just recently looked them up, and they are actually worse off than they were when we first started working with them. So at this point, I've kept every client that I have. At least for SEO. When it comes to SEO, yeah, I've only had a couple of other people come to me for just little design aspects, and that was all they ever wanted. But any SEO client that I have, I've maintained.
I like to be able to really reiterate that because, see, people come back to us, and if they have ranking issues, and don't get me wrong, and people, we run over 1,500 marketing campaigns, and we have issues right now with about 1% of campaigns are flagged in our revisions and auditing department. I track all numbers on this, and we have statistics on the back end on gradients, on increase and decreases in rankings globally on all campaigns for all keywords, and that's the reasons why we built our own keyword ranking dashboard. But the thing is the majority of campaigns that go into revisions for auditing, we come out with these issues that the sites have. Whether it's from duplicate content, or this wasn't given on time, or this wasn't done on time, or we found this issue or that one. But I want to point out that Jeremy gets on top of everything and really works with his clients to get things fixed if campaigns ever have any issues. And what a lot of people do is they say, oh, you told me that I need to charge the client some more money to get these additional errors fixed. But the nature of the game is that when you have a website that the client's capable of updating on a regular basis, those errors that you run into that compound over time, those are normal. That's normal. And at some point in time, things have to be fixed and upgraded. And I think that's one of the reasons why Jeremy has so much success with his campaigns, almost to a flawless degree, is because he really stays on top of all of the tasks. And, you know, Jeremy, I'm sure that you've talked to the team before and challenged, you know, what they're trying to tell you to do, right?
Yeah. Well, and more importantly, if they say that they want to put it in themselves, do everything you can to take that away from them. Everything you can to take that away from them. And you know,
the client,
utilize
right?
Web design. Yeah, the client. Utilize web design. You know, as far as fixing those errors, as far as uploading that content, uploading their pictures. If anything, sell them on a web maintenance plan on a quarterly basis. Let them prepay for 5 to 50 hours, so that you have that, so that you have capital coming in to cover the cost of that. Because I think it's like $16.50 an hour for web design. Keep in mind that an hour's worth of time buys you a whole lot of stuff. But yeah, try to get control of that. And then, of course, you know, if you've got a client that you've been working, they're happy with what you've been doing over a 6 to 8 month period, don't think that you're done. Don't think that okay, well, it's done. It's going to keep working. And I mean, you really do need to go, put in the request and ask, hey, can we reevaluate this? Can we, because they do have great reevaluation specialists such as Stephen that will sit down with you, go through your entire campaign, and he knows more than we do. They know more than we do, so they'll point out holes and flaws that they spot in the process.
Yeah, they spend their time just sitting there looking through it. Now, I do want to bring up one thing. Jeremy offers branding services, and I'm just curious to know, because this is not something that we'll offer, nor is it something that we will ever offer. But I'm curious to know how many people are out there that are interested in being able to offer their clients a branding consultation services. This is based on branding. Jeremy, can you talk a little bit about the branding service that you offer and what's involved in that? And what does that mean? And what does it mean whenever you go to someone? Because I tell you what, people that are out there, when you go to a client and you want to pitch a big client, and that big client says, what makes you different? And you say, I'll give you branding consultation as well. That's a pretty big deal. That's not something that we can do for you. It has to be talked to their client. But I've been talking with Jeremy a little bit about maybe being able to set something up to where Jeremy might be able to offer this service. Might be able to offer this service through him, because Jeremy is able to offer this. And Jeremy, I think you're still in partner with your business partner that is really on top of this.
Yeah. I work with a guy that graduated from the Corcoran, which has been around since 1890. They're a world-renowned art and design school. They actually have an art gallery right next door to the White House. No political affiliation. And he also worked for the American Society of Interior Designers, so not just an interior designer, but the actual self-regulatory body, or one of two self-regulatory bodies for the industry. So he has won the cover of Icon magazine twice, which is a very competitive design process. So, and so he brings to the table a brand analysis that is very proprietary, very unique in a lot of ways. The word branding really came about 15, 16 years ago that companies started paying attention to it, and companies started selling it. To me, I think the greatest value in branding comes with this analogy. When we all go to the grocery store, right? We all go down the same aisles. We all know what baking soda is. Baking soda is one of the most basic ingredients on the planet. But there's still a reason why people will consistently pay 30 to 40 cents more for Arm & Hammer over the knockoff brand next to it. The reason why is not because their baking soda is better. It's because they are able to show and tap into the emotional aspect of what the consumer is looking for. I mean, let's face it, you can't always say what people are going to like when it comes to aesthetics. Whether people are going to like purple or blue or green or purple. We can't say that somebody's going to like a particular design over another. What we can say with absolute certainty is that every one of us have emotions, and we all invariably are going to use those emotions as we make a purchase. So if we can help our client, if we can help take our client away from the generic and get them to a point where they are able to where they're able to stand out, where they're able to provide the food, the emotional food that the consumer is looking for, then we invariably can help create a much better product.
Yeah, and pretty much, the concept is there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of budget that they can be putting into their presence. And when you go and you build them a website, that's great and that's fine. But when you get into what is the theme of their company, what is the feel for their company, what is their company supposed to be expressing, not just through the design of their site, but through the words on their site. And that's, if you have a client with a big enough budget, that gets into branding. And branding should always be done by a fairly high-level company. And I'll say this, Jeremy's business partner has given of myself and Leanna and Les Rice a brand consultation meeting, and I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about brand. I learned a lot about the value of brand. And I learned a lot about how, just their direction on what to do with the logo, how to put together what to express, and they even have some specialty designers just for working on things like that. So, yeah, Jeremy will give me a way to contact him after the meeting, and we'll figure out a way for that. So if anyone is interested in Jeremy's branding services, feel free to hit me up. Jeremy, I don't know if you had like a different email address you wanted to use. If not, they can hit me up for now about it. But Jeremy, what's their target audience to offer a branding consultation like that, and what are like the general rates? Say you came up with maybe some wholesale rates that were good for everyone, but what would the general rates be on something like this?
Well, branding is, I can tell you it's not cheap, only because there's a lot of time involved with it, and there's a lot of, we're going after designers that have a certain skill set. From a retail level, your average brand for a local-sized company is going to be anywhere from $8,000 to $20,000, and that's going to get them a full expression of their brand, both in a brand guide, style guide. It's also going to give them a logo. It's going to design 2 or 3 pieces of collateral, and yeah, so that's what your typical brand package would offer.
Yeah, and wholesale, of course, it would be that the profit margin that you would need to work out to make sure that you're making a good chunk of that. But my main point, and just throwing that out there, and I'll kind of wrap up the subject matter, is that branding is high level. Jeremy has someone that can speak directly to your client that's not overseas. He's a very, very high-level brand consultant. I've had a meeting with him myself, and it did me wonders for where to take the company. He does a great presentation. He represents himself at a very, very high level, and they have the services to back it. It is expensive. Branding is always expensive, but if you ever want to contact Jeremy, I'll get his contact information out in a follow-up in whatever format he wants to give to me, so that if you're ever looking for that branding, although be it expensive, if you're ever looking at a high-end client, to be able to offer them a branding service is something that they might absolutely jump on. And you would do that branding service before you build their website. So this isn't going to be for every client. It's only going to be for your high-end clients. But whenever you run across them from time to time, when you can pull out that differentiating factor that makes you different from the people that are standing next to you offering just design, and you pull out and say, how about branding? I see that you don't have a good logo. You don't have a central theme. You have a huge amount of budget. You're doing maybe a couple million in revenue a year, and you don't even have a brand behind you. Shouldn't you drop $8,000-10,000 just to get your brand consultation and outline done? And then what they're left with is a complete branding blueprint. And anything that they ever do design-wise, commercial-wise, print-wise, sales collateral-wise, anything, they will always reference their branding blueprint on what kind of content should be written to convey what about their brand. If they were going to go into social media, you would provide over the branding blueprint and say, follow this outline. This is the tone. This is what we're conveying. Here are our principles, and this is how we're going to be representing ourselves for what we stand for, what differentiates us, and what makes us stand apart. Brand consulting has always been expensive, and it always will be, and Jeremy can offer that. So if you're ever interested in learning about that, I'd like to just plug that for Jeremy, because what he offers is very rare, and I can guarantee you that's probably been a deal closer for you. Jeremy, how many times have you gotten a big client on the table and being able to get them into brand consulting right away as a big client is what allowed you to pull them through the door and get them closed, and then you ended up wrapping them into a full design build and a full marketing campaign?
Well, most of I've just started my company 2 years ago. I've pitched quite a few people on branding. I have been able to. Most of the companies I've worked with are small companies, startups that got started. They've only got a year underneath their belt. And when I talk to them, one of the big questions I ask everyone is, "What is your exit strategy?" And when they say, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, are you going to package this thing up for its assets and sell it off to the highest bidder? Are you planning on actually making enough money to retire on? What are your goals?" And most people will say, "Well, of course, I want to sell it. I want to make enough money to retire on." Okay, well, then I just tell them the reality. The reality of the situation is this is most of your service-based industries. Unless you have millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in assets, you are probably going to get a very small amount by comparison to what you really need for retirement. And the only way that you're really going to be able to sell your company off for a good, healthy dollar amount is if you sell the brand. There's a reason why when you look at Coca-Cola, it's worth $190 billion. Take away the word Coca-Cola, it's worth $60 billion. They lost a lot. They have a lot of value wrapped up in that pretty name. So that's what I take to people a lot of the times. I do have one particular client that I'm working on right now that he was a designer for the film industry, and he has always worked as an employee for very large companies such as Lucasfilms or Disney, what have you. And so now he's trying to separate himself from being part of the corporations and now and get the accolade that he needs or for himself and for his name, because he wants to twist his career into a different direction. And brand is extremely important for a client like that, because he wants to separate himself. I mean,
right.
Again, there's a reason why 4 out of 5 people buy a brand, but there's also a reason why not everybody is branded. It's because it takes money, it takes time, it takes creativity. I think the funniest thing in the world is discovering how generic people really are when you start asking them, well, give me some attributes. Give me some attributes. Tell me things about you.
Do you have like a PDF or something that or like an example branding blueprint or something that people would be able to reference and see, and maybe just an overview to your branding, and if not, something you could come up with so I could send it out to everyone?
Yeah. I mean, you can always go to our site.
If you don't have.
I guess, and we could talk about this later, but I guess we could always send them to my site. And we have a lot of my site's more informational than anything.
Well, it's up to you if you want to disclose your site. That's up to you.
This is my first webinar, so I'll go ahead and reserve that one for a conversation afterwards.
Okay. No problem.
But yeah,
we'll work on that.
If anything, I can talk to my partner and we can figure out how we can put together something for you.
Yeah, we'll work on that for everyone. I like to be able to give people a service like that, because I tell you what, when you guys go out there and sell branding, you can sell it for a lot of money, and there's plenty of people looking for it. You're going to come across it at some point in time. Now,
well, more importantly, they won't want anybody else to touch their company but you. If you sell somebody a brand, unless you completely drop the ball and completely mess up, you will have their business almost forever.
Yeah.
Because no one knows their soul better than the person who helped them design it.
Yeah, yeah. And those are some deep words right there, and they're absolutely true. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap up. If I could summarize, Andrew made a good point that maybe during the webinar we should try to focus on one central subject matter. Probably a good idea because it does get a little bit all over the place. But if I could just summarize how everything comes together on this webinar, I would say that one, from a sales standpoint, we gave you a couple. Well, primarily one way to go after leads, but honestly what's behind it is just the will and the determination to get out of bed and just not give up. Even with the way that Jeremy approaches his sales, failure is at a much higher rate than success. But I guarantee you, Jeremy pops out of bed first thing in the morning and hits the floor running with a positive attitude. That's just the way that he is, and that's really what it takes. I mean, it takes a really positive attitude. It takes a lot of determination just to say, no, I'm going to tear up these sales. When someone comes to him, goes to Jeremy and says, your PPC rates are really high, he has the positive attitude and how to approach that says, yes, you're right. Absolutely right. And so why don't you go with an SEO, a PPC, or a social media campaign? Because I agree, this is too expensive. When they come at him and say, online marketing is not for me and it's just a fad or whatever else, he likes that and he takes it as a challenge and he takes it on. If he gets on a phone and he has a problem getting through the decision maker, he talks to whoever's listening and he works to battle his way through the gate, and he enjoys the challenge that's involved in that. And that's something that I was happy to have you on with Jeremy, because I think that just by everyone listening to you talk probably can just imagine, that you're always in high spirits and you're always pumping down the sales pipeline and you're always looking forward to your last challenge. And it's something that you look forward to as something that you approach as a job, as something that, oh no, more failure, or I'm trying to approach it differently or something like that. And I think that that's really important for people to be able to hear in your voice and to understand that so much of running a business is overcoming your challenges and never giving up and always looking for the next possibility, the next lead, and just working to learn more and build and build and build and work intelligently and work smart and pulling everything together. And then whenever you are dealing with the campaigns and the team, working smart with how you manage your campaigns, working smart with how you manage your clients and their expectations, and making sure that they're well stayed in touch with and that they're keeping up with their tasks and that their websites are built properly from the very beginning. If they need a redesign, that the redesign is done in the very first place. And out of that, you can build an absolutely amazing company. I mean, Jeremy, I think we met when you were building your first website.
Yep.
For your company.
We met. We met a little over a year and a half ago. And when I first started this thing, all I offered was design. I realized how futile that was, and spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what I was going to do with SEO. I will always and forever thank my friend who introduced me to you. And yeah, it was from there that I started realizing my company's true calling and my company's true abilities. All
right, Jeremy, I really appreciate you being on. I really appreciate all the people out there that took their time to attend the webinar and be on the line. And hopefully the webinar was encouraging for you and you got your tips and tricks out of it. I'm going to be do what I can. I'm going to try to. Got to be someone out there that's going to be throwing Jeremy a high-dollar branding gig after being on here and talking that'll motivate him to get back on here. We'll all be able to help everyone in sharing. So everyone wants to give a shout-out, a thank you to Jeremy, and I thank you, Jeremy, and I thank everyone being on the line, and I hope everyone has a great weekend that's coming up. And if any of you are listening out there and saying, hey, you know what, Jeremy is a phenomenal speaker. I really like the idea of this whole group dynamic of sharing and helping. And if you think that you can really bring something to the same audience through a webinar, please hit me up, and maybe we can help you promote maybe a side thing that you do. But if you